In everyone's life, there are moments when they have to face rejection. Some people perceive it as a normal life situation and continue their path, while for others, it becomes a deep trauma that leaves a mark for life. This story tells about tragic events that occurred in August 2012 in the town of Plainfield, located between Will and Kendall counties in Illinois. At the center of events was a young woman named Alisha Bromfield, who was 21 years old at the time. Alisha was born on August 28, 1990, to Sherry and James Bromfield in the city of Joliet, which was approximately 15 kilometers from Plainfield. She was one of 5 children in the family, and despite all life's difficulties, she always radiated optimism and cheerfulness, inspiring those around her with her positive attitude. Growing up as the eldest among her siblings, Alisha was accustomed to solving problems independently, trying not to trouble her parents with minor issues. Later, this character trait would play a fatal role in her destiny. At the time of the tragedy, the young woman was studying at Western Illinois University, where she enrolled after graduating from Joliet Catholic Academy. She was just a few months away from receiving her degree in criminal justice and forensic psychology. Having dreamed of a legal career since childhood, Alisha was confidently moving toward her goal. But life had another important event in store for her. Alisha was expecting a child. In her 6th month of pregnancy, she learned she would have a daughter, whom she decided to name Ava Lucille. The child's father, whom Alisha had met in college, refused responsibility and left her when he learned about the pregnancy. However, Alisha didn't fall into despair. With the support of family and friends, she prepared to become a single mother while continuing to build her career. Throughout her pregnancy, she carefully prepared for her daughter's arrival, buying everything necessary for the baby. Ava Lucille was expected to be born in early winter 2012, right after university exams. Alisha planned to dedicate the first months to caring for her daughter and then return to work at the garden center, aiming to later start a career in the legal field. Her academic achievements were impressive. She maintained a 3.8 GPA while working full-time at the garden center. Friends and professors remember her as a diligent student who often stayed up late completing assignments, determined to create a better future for herself and her future daughter. She had already started researching law schools in the Chicago area, planning to begin applying after Ava's birth. Professors also recalled that Alisha often brought parenting books to class, diligently preparing for motherhood. She even attended additional courses in child psychology, dreaming of becoming not just a mother but the best friend to her future daughter. Her phone contained dozens of bookmarks with articles about child development and lists of baby names she had carefully selected for Ava. It seemed that 21-year-old Alisha's life was going perfectly. Important events lay ahead, receiving her diploma and giving birth to her daughter. But the tragic events of August 2012 cut short all her plans and dreams. On the morning of August 19, 2012, a 36-year-old man in wet clothes appeared at a gas station in Door County, Wisconsin. He asked the station attendant to use the phone to call 911 emergency services. When the clerk dialed the number, the stranger began talking to the operator. Before this, the perpetrator, who had been obsessed with the girl for 5 years, took her life because of rejection. In a fit of rage, he paced the room, contemplating ways to revenge the one who dared to reject him. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll bring you more videos featuring the most shocking and true crime stories. Alisha's trip to a wedding as an accompanying person ended in tragedy, crossing out all her plans and dreams for the future. Alisha's life changed dramatically when one day a man in wet clothes appeared at a gas station in Door County. Speaking to the 911 operator, he calmly confessed to intentionally murdering a pregnant woman the previous evening in a hotel room. He added that he considered himself a good person, if not for the events of the previous night. This man turned out to be Brian Cooper, Alisha's direct supervisor at the garden center. Brian, who was 36 years old at the time, worked as a regional manager for the garden center chain and was 15 years older than Alisha. Their joint work lasted about 5 years, during which their relationship gradually became more complicated. Initially, Cooper gave the impression of being a pleasant and friendly person. As her direct supervisor, he was responsible for Alisha's work schedule and monitored her duties. They developed such a trusting relationship that she even agreed to walk his dog, having keys to Brian's house. Having started working as a teenager, Alisha was eager to earn money and viewed her boss's request to care for his dog as an opportunity for additional income. She had no idea about Brian's true intentions. It soon became apparent that Cooper felt more than friendly feelings toward Alisha. He often made inappropriate comments, introduced her to new employees as his girlfriend, although they never had a romantic relationship. Using his position of authority, he tried to control every aspect of her life. Brian constantly tried to be alone with Alisha in the warehouse, made attempts to kiss her, called and wrote on weekends. He showed jealousy when he saw her in the company of male colleagues and could forbid lunch breaks if he learned she planned to eat with others. Despite obvious signs of attention, Alisha never reciprocated his feelings. She tried to avoid unnecessary meetings with her boss but couldn't leave the job that perfectly suited her schedule and conditions. Having started at the garden center at 16, she genuinely loved her work with flowers and interaction with customers. Due to her young age and inexperience, Alisha hoped Cooper's feelings would fade on their own. She didn't dare to openly confront her supervisor, on whom her employment depended. Her natural gentleness and non-confrontational nature only intensified Brian's persistence. The girl tried several times to delicately explain to Cooper the absence of mutual feelings and the inappropriateness of using his position, but her attempts were unsuccessful. Faced with rejection, Brian became cruel and began openly abusing his power. From courtship, he moved to verbal abuse, publicly humiliated Alisha, using profanity and accusations of promiscuity. The company management was aware of the regional manager's inappropriate behavior. In fact, between 2008 and 2012, 7 official complaints were filed against Cooper by different female employees. Alisha also filed multiple official complaints, as confirmed by court documents. However, the only consequence was a recommendation for Cooper to take anger management courses, the completion of which wasn't even verified. Thus, Alisha found herself trapped in her beloved job under constant pressure from a cruel supervisor. One former employee, Sarah Johnson, later testified that Cooper created a toxic atmosphere of constant fear. He would suddenly appear behind a female employee when she was working alone in a remote part of the garden center, or wait for her after work in the dark parking lot. When girls complained to management, they were transferred to other stores, often to much worse positions with lower pay, while Cooper remained in place, receiving promotions for high sales figures. A former HR representative later testified that Cooper's high sales figures and connections with upper management made him untouchable. Despite the difficult situation with her supervisor, Alisha continued to diligently perform her duties. At 21, expecting a child, she especially valued this job. However, Brian's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. He would alternate between acting as a caring friend and falling into fits of rage, during which he could even throw objects at her. Particularly dangerous was the fact that Cooper had the authority to send Alisha on business trips, accompanying her personally. The girl tried to establish boundaries in communication, but she lacked confidence. Not wanting to worry her parents, she often felt alone in the face of her aggressive supervisor's threats. Understanding the necessity to keep her job, Alisha tried to find a compromise with her supervisor. However, the more she avoided meetings with Brian, the more aggressive his harassment became. Even her pregnancy didn't stop her boss. He continued to insist on a relationship, using his position to pressure her. Cooper would deliberately schedule shifts on days of planned doctor's appointments, forcing Alisha to change her plans. In August 2012, Brian invited Alisha to accompany him to his sister's wedding in Wisconsin, where he was to walk the bride down the aisle. When she refused, he again threatened termination. Afraid of losing her job, Alisha agreed, but on the condition of staying in separate rooms. She hoped this trip would somehow soften Brian's character. Early morning on August 18, 2012, they departed from Plainfield to Door County, Wisconsin. Alisha's mother, Sherry, knowing about the boss's behavior, begged her daughter not to go, but she replied that she had no choice, promising to return the next day. Unfortunately, this promise was never to be fulfilled. Upon arrival, Alisha discovered that Brian had booked them a shared room, lying about separate accommodations. The Sand Bay Beach Resort surveillance camera records show Alisha attempting to book a separate room at the registration desk. However, Cooper, using his position of authority, cancelled her booking, insisting on a shared room, claiming there were no available rooms. In reality, the hotel had plenty of vacant rooms, as confirmed by the booking system records. She sent a message to her mother about an argument with Brian and her intention to return home immediately. However, Cooper apologized, explaining the situation as a lack of available rooms, and they stayed for the ceremony. Alisha didn't want to ruin Brian's sister's celebration. The wedding took place outdoors. Brian performed his role as the honorary escort, but his mood was gloomy because of Alisha's words that there wouldn't even be friendship between them. The next day, August 19th, he appeared at a gas station where he confessed to murdering his pregnant employee. Police immediately arrested Cooper, and in the hotel room, they discovered the body of 21-year-old Alisha Bromfield, partially covered with a blanket. The medical examiner's report showed that Alisha fought fiercely for her life. Her finger joints were bruised from defending herself, and the DNA under her fingernails matched Cooper's. Experts determined that the struggle lasted about 20 minutes. During this time, Alisha managed to send a final message to her friend: "If something happens to me, he's responsible." Her body showed traces of 27 strikes. Particularly horrifying was that the medical examination confirmed the baby was alive for several minutes after the mother's death but had no chance of survival at that stage of pregnancy. The position of her body showed that she tried to curl around her stomach in a final attempt to protect her unborn daughter. A tragic scene greeted police in the hotel room. Alisha's body lay on the floor, carefully covered with a blanket, with a pillow neatly placed under her head. At first glance, it appeared as if the girl was just sleeping, but detailed examination revealed numerous injuries, bruises, and scratches, indicating a desperate fight for life, her own and her unborn daughter's. During interrogation, Brian Cooper described the events of that evening. According to him, after the wedding, they returned to the hotel room, where Alisha immediately went to bed. There were 2 beds in the room. Brian, under the influence of alcohol, paced around the room, periodically going out to smoke. He became increasingly angry about Alisha's words regarding ending all communication after returning home. Cooper claimed they had been dating and had a good relationship, although this wasn't true. He said he respected her pregnancy by another man and kept his distance. At the wedding, they took their last photo together, where Alisha tried to appear cheerful. With each portion of alcohol, Brian increasingly lost control. He was enraged that the girl dared to make her own decision, despite his authority as a supervisor. When Alisha woke up and went to the balcony for air, he suggested watching a movie together the next day. Receiving another rejection, Cooper completely lost his self-control. He suddenly attacked Alisha while she was lying on the bed, attempting to strangle her. The girl resisted, begging him to think about the baby. In her last minutes of life, she thought not about herself, but about saving unborn Lucy. During the struggle, they fell to the floor, where Alisha managed to bite her attacker's finger. Enraged, Brian grabbed a phone charging cord and strangled her. After committing the crime, Cooper desecrated Alisha's body, explaining to investigators that he wanted to see her without clothes. Then he covered the body with a blanket and placed a pillow under her head. Brian planned to commit not wanting to face the consequences of his actions and explanations to acquaintances. He tried to hurt himself with a knife and corkscrew but couldn't due to the pain. Instead, he fell asleep in the bathroom, and upon waking in the morning, couldn't even look at the body of the girl he had stalked for years. Overwhelmed with despair, he left the hotel walls and headed to the nearest bay. In his mind, there was only one intention: to end his life in the ocean depths. However, when Brian submerged himself in the water, surrendering to the waves, his natural survival instinct overcame his desire to die. His body fought for life, despite his conscious intentions. Another attempt proved unsuccessful. Depressed and soaked, he crawled onto the shore and wandered along the coastline until he came across a gas station. Water was still dripping from his clothes when he went inside, intending to call law enforcement and surrender. During interrogation, he detailed this story to investigators. When asked about previous displays of aggression, Brian confessed that he had never taken anyone's life before. Alisha Bromfield was his first victim. However, he told about an incident with his former girlfriend, whom he tied up during one of their arguments, allegedly for a normal conversation. The frightened girl didn't dare report to the police, so Cooper was never held accountable for his violent actions. Perhaps if she had reported the assault then, Alisha Bromfield's fate would have been different. Alisha's family was immediately notified of the tragedy after her body was discovered in the hotel room. Particularly painful was the fact of the unborn child's death, a little girl whose arrival the family had been eagerly awaiting. Their grief was boundless. Brian Cooper was charged with intentional homicide and desecration of a corpse. The court set bail at $1 million. While the accused was in custody awaiting trial, the investigation continued gathering evidence. Besides the recorded confession, they established numerous facts of abuse of authority and stalking of Alisha both at work and outside it over several years. Shocking materials were found on Cooper's computer. He had installed hidden cameras in his bathroom, recording Bromfield after walking his dog. He also placed a recording device in the hotel bathroom trash can, capturing her naked after showering. These and other pieces of evidence not only showed his obsession with Alisha but revealed the true nature of his sick, calculating personality. The victim never suspected that recordings of her bathroom visits were viewed repeatedly. Even on Brian's mobile phone, they found videos he used to stalk Bromfield. Despite his initial confession, at trial Cooper changed his position, claiming innocence due to alcohol intoxication. He didn't deny killing the young pregnant woman but tried to justify his actions. His defenders insisted that due to excessive alcohol consumption, the defendant couldn't understand his actions or distinguish right from wrong. By this logic, he shouldn't be held responsible for the deaths of Alisha and her unborn child. The prosecution refuted this theory, citing the detail in his confessions. Cooper remembered the smallest details of what happened that night, which is uncharacteristic for someone in a state of severe alcohol intoxication. His multiple attempts also indicated awareness of the wrongfulness of his actions. However, as incredible as it may sound, the jury couldn't reach a unanimous decision. 2 of the 12 jurors agreed with the argument about alcohol intoxication as a mitigating circumstance. This verdict shocked everyone present and meant a retrial was necessary. Particularly struck was Alisha's mother, Sherry. She was deeply disturbed by the fact that 2 female jurors effectively justified the brutal murder of a young woman and her unborn child solely based on the perpetrator's alcohol intoxication. In her opinion, such a precedent could allow anyone to avoid responsibility for serious crimes by simply citing intoxication. Not wanting other families to experience similar pain and bury their loved ones because of drunk criminals, Sherry took action. Outraged by the case's outcome, she led a campaign to change legislation. Together with her daughter's relatives and friends, she spoke out against this defense strategy, which was entirely legal in the U.S. judicial system at the time. Sherry's team actively spread information, aiming to raise public awareness about this issue. Her fight for justice was tireless. Sherry wrote numerous appeals to officials at various levels, organized online petitions, and held meetings with Wisconsin state legislators. Her persistence finally brought results. In spring 2014, a year and a half after Alisha's tragic death, Governor Scott Walker signed a law that eliminated voluntary intoxication as a defense argument in Wisconsin state court practice. Thanks to Sherry's efforts, similar changes were implemented in 32 states, although these new regulations couldn't be applied to Brian's case since the crime occurred earlier. Due to the first jury's inability to reach a unanimous decision, in May 2014, a retrial was held for the murder of Alisha Bromfield and her unborn daughter Ava. The defense still had the right to use the intoxication argument. The jury again heard all evidence of his sick obsession and abuse of authority, viewed the hidden camera recordings, and listened to Cooper's detailed confession about how he took the life of a pregnant woman despite her pleas to spare her unborn child. This time, the jury unanimously found him guilty on all counts. Brian Cooper was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. After losing her daughter, Sherry filed a lawsuit against the employer company. It was revealed that Alisha had repeatedly complained to management about harassment and cruel treatment from her immediate supervisor. Moreover, she wasn't the only one, similar complaints came from other female employees. Before Alisha, a young girl named Jessica, who had just finished school, worked at the garden center. At her first job, she faced Cooper's inappropriate attention, and after refusing his advances, constant criticism of her work. Unlike Alisha, Jessica filed a complaint, but due to management's inaction, she was forced to quit. In her lawsuit, Sherry accused the company of negligence that led to her daughter's death. She argued that if management had properly responded to complaints and protected their female employees from Brian's harassment, the tragedy could have been prevented. The company tried to defend itself by arguing that the crime didn't occur on store property, and they weren't obligated to monitor their employees around the clock. Initially, the lawsuit was dismissed, but later this decision was overturned on appeal. Having gone through exhausting court proceedings, Sherry didn't want other parents to experience similar ordeals. Despite unbearable anger and feelings of guilt for not being able to protect her daughter and granddaughter, she found strength to transform her pain into help for others. The family established a charitable organization called the Purple Project, named after Alisha's favorite color. This name held special significance. During court proceedings, loved ones were forbidden from wearing clothes with Alisha's image, so they wore purple as a sign of love and support. The organization provides psychological help to parents who have lost children, as well as moral and financial support to single young mothers. The Purple Project accepts not only monetary donations but also children's items, toys, and diapers. The most striking turn in this story was that Kelly Stryker, Cooper's own sister, joined Sherry's mission. Being a social worker specializing in mental health issues, child abuse, and domestic violence, Kelly initially testified in her brother's defense during the trial. However, she was troubled by his refusal to take responsibility for his actions. Moved by Sherry's desire to preserve Alisha's memory, Kelly herself offered her help to the Purple Project, trying somehow to atone for her brother's crime. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about this case. If you enjoy deep dives into true crime, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, friends.